Imagine you've invented something that could change the lives of billions of people. Now, imagine locking that invention away. Not because you feared it would fail, but because you were terrified it would destroy the very business that made you successful in the first place. It sounds unbelievable and we're sick. Yet, some of the biggest companies in history made this exact mistake. They didn't lose to bad luck or powerful competitors. They lost because they were too busy protecting today's success instead of building tomorrow's future. Hello, I'm Sakil. If this caught your attention, it means you're someone who values curiosity and critical thinking. Today, I am going to talk about the single decision that destroyed billion-dollar companies. Number 1, Kodak. No story illustrates this better than Kodak's. For most of the 20th century, Kodak held a total monopoly in the photography world. Millions of families relied on Kodak to capture birthdays, weddings, vacations, and their most precious memories. Its business model was incredibly profitable. People bought Kodak cameras, then they bought Kodak film, and finally they paid Kodak to develop the pictures. Every single photo created a new stream of revenue. By the 1970s, Kodak seemed unstoppable, but their biggest threat wasn't a competitor. The threat was their own invention. In 1975, Kodak engineer Steven Sasson invented the world's first digital camera. It was heavy, took low-resolution photos, and took over 20 seconds to save a single image. By today's standards, it was completely primitive. But Sasson understood something crucial. Technology always improves. He knew digital photography was the future. When he demonstrated the camera to Kodak executives, they immediately understood what it meant. If digital photography took off, people would stop buying film, the very product driving Kodak's massive profits. Instead of seeing it as an opportunity, they saw it as a threat. People often ask, if Kodak invented the digital camera, why didn't they lead the digital revolution? The answer wasn't a lack of innovation. Kodak had brilliant engineers and thousands of valuable patents. The real problem was psychological. Everything Kodak had built, their factories, their supply chains, their marketing, and their profits, was completely dependent on film. Digital photography didn't just create a new business, it threatened to destroy their existing one. When companies become massively successful, protecting today's profits feels much safer than investing in an uncertain future. That comfort zone became Kodak's greatest weakness. Meanwhile, the world kept changing. In the 80s and 90s, computers grew stronger, storage became cheaper, and the internet connected millions. Digital cameras improved rapidly. Companies like Canon and Sony invested heavily in this new technology. Because they had no film business to protect, they embraced the future without hesitation. Kodak eventually entered the digital camera market, and some of their products even became bestsellers. But by then, it was too late. Every digital camera Kodak sold killed the demand. For their own film business, the company spent years trying to protect the past, only to discover that the past could no longer protect them. Kodak's downfall didn't happen overnight. It was the result of years of delayed decisions and false confidence. Then, the smartphone changed the photography world all over again. In a cruel twist of fate, the company that invented the digital camera found itself chasing a future it had discovered decades earlier. In 2012, Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Not because they lacked intelligence, not because they lacked innovation, but because they confused their product with their purpose. Kodak believed they were in the film business. In reality, they were in the business of helping people preserve memories. The moment they forgot that difference, they began to lose their future. And as shocking as Kodak's story is, the next story might be even more mind-blowing, because another giant company had the chance to buy a small startup for just $50 million. That startup was Netflix. Number 2, the $50 million laugh that cost billions. If Kodak's mistake was ignoring the future, Blockbuster's mistake was laughing at it. Today, it is almost impossible to believe that Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix for just $50 million, and they said no. That decision would become one of the most expensive missed opportunities in business history. In the early 2000s, Blockbuster completely dominated the world of home entertainment. Every weekend, millions of families would crowd into their stores to rent movies, buy snacks, and enjoy a movie night. With thousands of outlets and billions of dollars in annual revenue, Blockbuster seemed invincible. At the exact same time, A small startup named Netflix was fighting just to survive. Their business was simple. Customers ordered DVDs online and received them by mail. Compared to Blockbuster, they seemed completely insignificant. In the year 2000, Netflix founder Reed Hastings offered to sell his company to Blockbuster for roughly $50 million. The pitch was straightforward. Netflix would help Blockbuster build their online business while Blockbuster continued to run their retail stores, but Blockbuster's executives didn't see the opportunity. To them, Netflix was just a tiny startup with an unproven business model. The offer was rejected. At the time, the decision seemed perfectly logical. Blockbuster's stores were busy, profits were strong, and one of their biggest sources of revenue wasn't movie rentals, it was late fees. Every overdue DVD generated hundreds of millions of dollars in extra income every year. Netflix took the exact opposite approach. No late fees, no rush to return the movie. They solved a problem that customers had hated for years. What seemed like a small convenience eventually became a massive competitive advantage. Then, the world changed. Internet speeds increased. Broadband became standard. Streaming technology matured. People were no longer asking, how fast can a DVD arrive? Instead, they were asking, why can't I watch this instantly? Netflix saw this shift early. In 2007, they launched their streaming service. Initially, the catalog was small, but their goal was clear. The medium of entertainment was moving from physical stores to digital platforms. Blockbuster eventually reacted. They launched Blockbuster Online, experimented with DVDs by mail, and even dropped late fees. But by then, their greatest strength had become their greatest weakness. Thousands of retail stores meant massive operating costs. Every step they took toward the future meant abandoning the very business that had made them successful in the first place. Just like Kodak, Blockbuster spent way too much time trying to protect yesterday instead of preparing for tomorrow. In 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. Today, only one independently operated Blockbuster store remains in the entire world, standing as a relic of a company that once controlled an industry. Blockbuster didn't lose because Netflix was bigger or richer. They lost because they judged the future by the rules of the present. They saw Netflix as just a DVD by mail company instead of a technology company preparing for the streaming age. History repeated itself. Companies that refuse to disrupt themselves are eventually disrupted by someone else. And the next story is just as extraordinary. Because this time, the world's biggest phone manufacturer watched the future unfold live on stage. Yet, number 3, the king who couldn't see the future. There was a time when Nokia wasn't just a phone company, it was the phone company. From London to Mumbai, New York to Beijing, chances are the phone in your pocket had a Nokia logo. Known for incredible battery life, durability, and reliability, Nokia ruled the mobile industry. By 2007, they controlled nearly 40% of the global phone market. From the outside, they looked untouchable. But that exact same year, everything changed. On January 9, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage in San Francisco and announced 3 devices: an iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. Then he revealed that they were all, in fact, one single device: the iPhone. Most people saw a new phone. Very few realized they were witnessing the birth of the smartphone era. Inside Nokia, engineers quickly tore down and analyzed Apple's new product. Their conclusion seemed logical. The battery life wasn't great, the phone was too expensive, and the touchscreen lacked the precision of physical buttons. Compared to Nokia's devices, the iPhone felt like a compromised, flawed product. But Nokia made one fatal mistake. They judged the iPhone on whether it was a good phone. Apple was building something entirely different. They weren't trying to build a better traditional phone. They were turning the phone into a pocket computer. While Nokia obsessed over hardware, Apple focused on software and the user experience. The touchscreen wasn't revolutionary because it removed buttons. It was revolutionary because it allowed the phone to become almost anything: a camera, a GPS, a music player, a gaming device, a web browser, and eventually millions of apps. The competition was no longer about hardware. It had become an ecosystem. To be fair, Nokia didn't completely ignore smartphones. They invested heavily in research and continued to develop their Symbian operating system. But Symbian was designed for an older generation of phones. As smartphones evolved, the software became too difficult to upgrade. Meanwhile, Apple launched the App Store, and Google introduced Android. Developers quickly rushed to these platforms, building thousands of new applications. Every new app made iOS and Android stronger. Every single year, Nokia fell further behind. In 2011, in a desperate final attempt to turn things around, Nokia partnered with Microsoft and adopted Windows Phone. Windows Phone was Microsoft's mobile operating system, just as Android is Google's mobile operating system and iOS is Apple's mobile operating system. On paper, the deal looked promising, but by then consumers had already chosen iOS and Android. The developers followed the users. Without a strong app ecosystem, even great hardware couldn't compete. The collapse was dramatic. In just a few short years, Nokia's market share crashed. Their empire vanished. And in 2013, Nokia sold its mobile phone business to Microsoft. The company didn't fail because it lacked talented engineers or innovation. They failed because they were too busy perfecting yesterday's product, while Apple was building tomorrow's platform. Kodak protected film, Blockbuster protected retail stores, Nokia protected traditional mobile phones. Every single one of them believed they're great, but history proved otherwise. Number 4. When success became the enemy. MySpace and Xerox PARC. So far, the companies we have looked at all protected the very thing that made them successful. But this isn't about ignoring technology. This is about sacrificing the user experience for short-term profits. The empire that sold its soul, MySpace. Before Facebook became the world's largest social network, MySpace ruled social media. Musicians built their careers there. Teenagers customized their profiles. Millions of people connected online in ways never seen before. At one point, MySpace was one of the most visited websites in the United States. Their future seemed invincible. Then in 2005, News Corporation bought MySpace for roughly $580 million. The deal felt like a perfect match. A rapidly growing social platform backed by one of the world's largest media companies. But the company's priorities shifted very quickly. Instead of focusing on the user experience, management focused on maximizing ad revenue. More banner ads, more sponsored content, more clutter. Every decision increased revenue in the short term, but altogether, it made the platform slow, noisy, and annoying. While MySpace was flooding its pages with ads, Facebook took the exact opposite approach. Their interface was clean, fast, simple. People loved spending time there. MySpace believed more ads meant more profit. Facebook understood that a better user experience attracts more users. And where the users go, advertisers eventually follow. By the time MySpace realized what was happening, millions of people had already moved to Facebook. Friends invited friends, creators followed the audience, advertisers chased the attention. The network effect had completely reversed. In 2011, News Corporation sold MySpace for a mere fraction of what they paid for it. They didn't lose because people stopped using social media. They lost because users found a platform that valued their time. The laboratory that invented tomorrow. Xerox PARC. If MySpace shows how companies can destroy themselves chasing short-term profits, Xerox's story is even stranger. They invented the future, then failed to profit from it. In the early 1970s, Xerox created the Palo Alto Research Center, better known as Xerox PARC. Their mission was simple: imagine the future. Their researchers invented technologies that would later change the computing world. The graphical user interface, GUI, the computer mouse, laser printing, Ethernet networking, many of the technologies we consider essential today were born in those laboratories. But Xerox leadership saw these merely as interesting experiments, not as business opportunities. After all, Xerox believed they were in the photocopier business, not the computer business. In 1979, Steve Jobs visited Xerox PARC. Seeing the graphical interface and the mouse, he instantly understood their potential. Apple refined those ideas and introduced them to the world through the Macintosh. Later, Microsoft expanded on the same concept with Windows. Ironically, some of the technologies that helped build trillion-dollar companies were first created at Xerox. Xerox didn't fail because their engineers lacked vision. They failed because their leadership couldn't see the commercial value of the technology they created. History rarely remembers who gives birth to an idea. History remembers whoever successfully brings it to the world. By now, a pattern has become impossible to ignore. Kodak protected film. Blockbuster protected retail stores. Nokia protected hardware. BlackBerry protected the keyboard. MySpace chased short-term profits. Xerox failed to realize the value of its own inventions. Different companies, different industries, but the same outcome. Yet, the final story is perhaps the most surprising of all. Because this company knew all these lessons. They had $1.75 billion in funding, Hollywood's biggest stars, and resources beyond imagination. Yet they repeated the exact same mistakes. That company was Quibi. The $1.75 billion company that never had a chance. Quibi. You might think that business leaders have learned from history. They haven't. In 2018, Hollywood executive Jeffrey Katzenberg and former eBay CEO Meg Whitman launched a new company called Quibi, short for Quick Bites. The concept was quite convincing. People were spending more time on their smartphones. Attention spans were getting shorter. So, what if you created premium Hollywood shows exclusively for mobile devices? Before releasing a single show, Quibi raised approximately $1.75 billion from some of the biggest names in media and technology. A-list actors, famous directors, and massive budgets. Everything pointed towards one goal. Quibi was going to be the next streaming giant. But there was one problem. The people it was built for never actually asked for it. This is one of the biggest traps in business, creating a product that people only praise, not a product that people actually need. Quibi focused on premium production and celebrities. Meanwhile, users were spending their time on platforms offering something completely different. YouTube offered unlimited free content. Instagram kept people connected with friends. TikTok provided endless, personalized entertainment. Quibi believed that Hollywood quality production would be enough to survive the competition. But it wasn't. The company made another massive mistake. They viewed content sharing as a threat rather than an advantage. Users couldn't easily share clips or screenshots. Yet, modern platforms grow through conversation. People share what they enjoy. Those shares attract new users. Quibi ignored one of the internet's most powerful growth engines. Without sharing, the opportunity for word-of-mouth promotion was minimal. And without conversation, the platform's growth practically stalled. When Quibi launched in April 2020, the public's reaction wasn't outrage. It was extreme apathy. Downloads plummeted, subscriptions were disappointing. Viewers quickly lost interest. Within a few months, the company began looking for a buyer, but no one came. Just 199 days after its launch, Quibi announced it was shutting down. One of the most well-funded entertainment startups in history collapsed in less than a year. Quibi didn't fail due to a lack of money, talent, or technology. They failed because they solved a problem that most people didn't even consider a problem. Consumers had already chosen where they wanted to spend their time: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Quibi entered a market where clear winners already existed. History repeated itself once again. Having massive funding doesn't guarantee that you are right. Conclusion: the illusion of comfort. When you look back at every company in this documentary, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. These companies thought they were making a catastrophic mistake. In the moment, every decision felt logical, and that is what makes these stories so powerful. The biggest business failures never start with reckless decisions. They start with logical choices made by intelligent people, while the world silently changes around them without their notice. This lesson isn't just for business, it applies to life as well. Success can build confidence, but confidence sometimes creates a comfort zone. And that comfort zone can turn into blindness. The companies that survive aren't always the smartest. The ones that survive are those willing to question their own success before anyone else does. Because the future waits for no one. The future rewards those who adapt with the times and moves forward, leaving behind those who cannot. If you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button, click